Okay, that's on. Good. One, two, three. Hello, good people. Hopefully having a fantastic day. So what's been going on? It just sort of seems like everything's gone really, really crazy. We're seeing Donald Trump being told to stay in court, even though it's really not necessary for him to be there. Why is that? It's election season. Interference in the election starts early for the Democratic Party. Can we really trust the 2024 election? I don't believe so. There has been nothing in regards to election integrity. If you have a look, we've been bombarded with so many crises since the election of what I prefer to call the fraud action of Joseph Biden, Imperial Lord Biden. He's not in control, and it's very difficult to know exactly who is in control. Best guesses are Susan Rice. It's not Barack Obama. He's not a very intelligent person. If you have a look, Vladimir Putin made a lot of moves under Barack Obama. For example, Odessa, that was one. Not only that, but you've got to remember that there's a lot of questionable transactions from Russia to Democratic Party politicians. We don't need to mention names like Hunter Biden or Joe Biden or any Biden whatsoever. If you have a look at that whole family, there's enough there to investigate for decades. But it just seems like here we go again. If you don't remember last time, President Donald Trump had his Twitter, Instagram, Facebook all closed down just before the election seasons kicked off. And for what? For what? Just tweeting exactly how he's tweeted ever since he started on Twitter. But why do people think that the Democratic Party work in their interests? I don't understand it. Inflation is up. I'm here in Bangkok. Inflation is not up here. Why is it in the United States? Here, every 90 days, I have to check into immigration to show my papers, to show that I'm legally in the country. In the United States, you don't have to do that anymore. Anybody walks in, I'm pretty sure that if Australians or Scottish or British, even Canadians or New Zealanders walked in, I think that would be problematic for those people. But for anybody south of the border going up, that's fine. For Chinese people somehow getting through the border as well, that's fine. Middle Easterns, Africans, that's all fine. I wonder why. It doesn't really make any sense. You don't have a nation without borders, and you do not have borders without integrity of your sovereign state. You don't have that in the United States anymore. Why release money to Iran that is funding Hezbollah, which funds Hamas? Not only that, Islamic Jihad, ISIS, they all share some characteristics, which are the elimination of Israel and the Jewish state, which Israel is not really a Jewish state, is it? I mean, it's 1/3 Arab, it's 1/3 Christian, it's 1/3 Jewish. Not only that, but there are Arabs and Muslims and Christians in the parliament, mayors, local officials, in the bureaucracy. Israel is the only democratic state in the Middle East. It's the only state where equal rights are guaranteed to women under law. So why do you think the Democratic Party is not starting to clamp down on the protests that are all pro-Palestine, which to me means pro-Hamas? I think that on October 7, after 30 years of talks with the Palestinian territory, with their elected governments about having a state, have a plan for a nation state. These started with Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat about 1993. And then what happened? As soon as they start talking, there's a terror attack. 20 years ago, 2004, same thing. Then what happens? Terror attack. 10 years ago, start talking, then what? There's a terror attack. So it's as though somebody doesn't want peace there. And yet, you see people who are so ignorant of the Middle East and do not even understand that Palestine has only been around in theory since the 60s. As in, for the Palestinian Islam, Palestinian Muslim and Christian people. Now, I know people that have been to Palestine. They say, you've got to be careful. I know people, those same people have been to Israel, said, go anywhere I want. Now, something that should also be noted is that the left can only ever increase its base through crises and degeneracy. And we see this in all aspects of life at the moment. Gay marriage, okay, that's fine, go do it. I've got no problem with that. But now they want to attach LGBTQ, now they want furries, now they want MAPs. Now what else is going to be next? Trans species. It's getting a little bit crazy. But you see, how could you, as a Democratic Party official, ever tell someone that things will be better with you under the Democratic Party when there is absolutely no empirical evidence whatsoever that would ever occur? And the only thing that could ever really exist is that you become dependent on the Democratic Party. In order for that to happen, they need to be able to profit off you, don't they? Think about this. If someone's providing you with $30, they have to go make that money somehow. Well, how can they make that money when the only thing you are is a person? So usually you'll have employment, but most of these people protesting is students are unemployed, right? So what do you think will happen? Well, you won't be able to own anything. So that costs money and you're not making any, but you're going to need money. You're going to need something to survive. So there will probably be no money. You won't have the freedom of commerce anymore. What you will have is dependency on the state, and they will ration what they think you deserve. And what will that be based on? Your political affiliation. We already see this in the judicial system. If you're a Democrat, you don't get charged. Or if there's a possibility that you will vote Democrat, or at least Democratic Party will be able to take your mail-in vote and vote on your behalf, then you can get away. You see San Francisco, New York, if you steal under $1,000 worth of stuff, don't worry, you get to walk. You don't even have to pay it back. But if you're a Republican, you get charged. So a good example is this: somebody burnt the LGBTQ flag and got 15 years. But just yesterday, somebody burnt a Donald Trump flag and got a misdemeanor charge. They had to walk onto somebody's property, burn the flag, burn the whole posting down. Could have potentially started a big fire, but no, they just get to walk. Don't do it again in the next 12 months and you'll be okay. Don't forget to vote Democrat. Now, this really is a two-tier political system now. I mean, holding Donald Trump in court during the election season shows this. Not only that, but there's too much evidence against Joseph Biden and the Bidens to just ignore it, but they are, because district attorneys are all Democratic Party, especially in California and New York. Nobody else around the country is bothering to go after Democrats. Republicans are lazy, they're scared, they're cowards. They don't have backbones. We just saw Mike Johnson give more money to Ukraine. Ukraine is very interesting because under Donald Trump had NATO paying their fair share. And Vladimir Putin took notice and said, you know what, this is a real player. He knows what he's doing. I'm going to leave Ukraine alone. Biden gets in, NATO just goes, oh, okay, great, Americans are paying again, and what happens? Well, Putin straight into Ukraine. You know, it's quite sick what is going on around the world. But in particular, the United States is a Judeo-Christian conservative nation. You can't have itself internally you cannot have America internally tearing itself apart. There has to be some cohesion. There has to be the classical conservatives, classical liberals that used to be able to live side by side. But the left just keeps getting more radical. Now, the right wing in America basically gets ignored by the conservatives. Nobody's interested in them. And we're not talking about neo-Nazis, because that's a socialist movement. I'm talking about basically what would be considered your libertarians. If you have a look, most of them are pretty much just right of centre these days. I mean, they're not even pushing anything. You know, the idea that the January 6th was some insurrection is ridiculous when there's no weapons found on anybody. You know, and if you go onto Telegram, some of the information coming out there is it's just nuts. I mean, I've never seen a whole bunch of right-wingers wear exactly the same thing. I've never seen all 30 of them wearing the same boots that are in the FBI catalogue for field work. You know, I've never seen that from right-wingers. And I'm not saying that the Democratic Party do that, but it just seems like every time there's some kind of crisis, it works in the Democratic Party's favour. It makes no sense. I have no reason why anybody would ever vote Democratic Party. I have actually no reason why anybody would really vote Republican. There's probably about half a dozen Republicans that seem to be half decent. At least they're going to stick up for the only person who in probably the last 20 years made America great, started to move America in a better position. Donald John Trump, President Donald John Trump. Number one, there's a million reasons to vote for him. Oil should be pumped from Alaska, not bought from overseas. Should not get rid of your oil reserves. You should bring industry back home. That can happen through corporate inversion. That is, don't tax money coming back in. Making your allies around the world pay their bills. Stop the politicization of historically black colleges and universities. Guarantee their funding each year. Great idea. You don't have to come to us every year. We know what it's going to cost. We'll pay it. Don't have to make it political. See, the Democratic Party use a lot of things as basically you have to basically pledge allegiance to the Democratic Party. So that's why they had to go every year. They had to guarantee allegiance to the Democratic Party. Or when it was Bush Republic, well, no, that wouldn't have happened. We know that. But it just sort of seems that these crises work in the Democratic Party favour. Okay, and they don't really push back on the degeneracy. They're not pushing back on these Hamas-supporting college students who are running riot, and once again assaulting Jews, and once again calling for genocide against Jews. Why don't they push back on these people? What is it? With Ukraine, more money, more money, more money, so nobody else has to really step up and say, let's just talk. About 20 years ago, President Putin did a deal with Ukraine. Don't join NATO, and we'll be friends. And Ukraine for a very long time said, yeah, that's a great idea. And then so all of a sudden, Joe Biden gets in power and they're like, NATO, NATO, NATO. Donald Trump told them, don't do it. Russia won't like it. But you can be an independent actor. You can actually be an observer of NATO. President Putin had no problem with that. And he can be an observer of the Russian alliances. Why not go and talk to both sides? Putin not have invaded, he wouldn't have been able to. And in particular, if Donald Trump was in power, because NATO would be paying their bills, and that would have scared Putin. But under a weakling like Biden, whoever his handlers are, we don't know who they are. You got no chance at all. Anyway, so it's very consequential. I don't even know if there's going to be a 2024 election. I just feel that things are going to get even more crazy. They're going to be throwing so much crazy out there. Nobody's going to be able to work out what is happening. It's going to be a very scary time. And the only thing I could say is that is President Donald John Trump the last hope? Yes. Yes, there is nobody. Vivek Ramaswamy has come forward, and I think he's another one. I also think that people underestimate Ben Carson. He doesn't have the braggadocious dexterity of a Donald John Trump. Vivek somewhat has that. Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jim Jordan, these, and I forget, there's two ladies as well, actually quite a, that I think are fantastic as well. Can't remember them. What is it? Mace? Okay, I forget. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think it's the most consequential election, but I'm not even sure it's going to happen. I just can see that if people don't start fighting now, that is calling the congressional and senatorial offices every day, state, federal level, saying we want everything investigated. People to stop paying their taxes. Yes, there will be it will upset the system, but you really have nothing to lose now because the system is not sustainable. The debt in America is going through the roof and industry is not coming back. It won't under a Democratic Party regime because there's no advantage for it. And plus, the Democratic Party want business overseas because America has pretty tough anti-corruption laws. So I'm not too sure if America can say, but do what you can. I mean, start getting on the phone, write emails non-stop, put it into work, register people to vote. You know, keep working on that, and you should be able to get somewhere. In the hope that somehow there's a breakthrough, because I feel like New York are going to keep Donald Trump in New York. Because nobody is holding them in contempt of the Constitution. It seems like Republicans are just happy to play the game. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. It's good people. Hopefully it's food for thought, and have a fantastic day. Bye for now. 1, 2, 3.